How's it going? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
Are we out in the intranets?
Oh, who knows these days? Who knows these days? We are likely live on YouTube. Um,
I like that. That could be the that could be the tagline. Multifamily weekend update, likely live on
likely
YouTube.
live on YouTube. Yes,
But follow us on LinkedIn.
yes, but please follow us on LinkedIn.
Well, it's Friday, last day of March. Last Friday of March, I mean, last full week in the quarter. It's been a busy one.
Yeah, it's true. We're kind of like at the pollinating season right now, right? Where things are going to start to heat up here. Yeah,
We are. At the pollinating season, there's still travel. So if you are a person that suffers from allergies, you're going from one climate to another. So you probably get affected somewhere along the way. There's been lots of events, a lot of content around NAA's Advocate this last week. Folks were in DC, working with and speaking with and listening to government officials involved in kind of a lot of our regulations for housing. And there's a news story, right, that we have about a recent affordable housing.
Why, yes, affordable housing. During a week in which multifamily has been advocating up in DC, affordable housing developers have really been kind of stifled. There was an article in Bloomberg that talks about the fact that Doge has kind of clawed back about $1 billion in loans and grants for energy efficiency upgrades. And this is really frustrating people who are trying to really, help attainable housing, affordable housing, as we call it sometimes. So $1.4 billion is the number we're looking at here. So the move by the Trump administration really was trying to, get some money back from the green projects and the retrofits that were happening in affordable housing. So think of this as like low income senior housing, for example.
Yeah.
So these developers have been waiting for the federal funding to come through to make things move forward, and they're just unable to do it.
Yeah, that definitely affects a lot of what's in the pipeline or was to be projected in the pipeline in some of these metro markets. I know in Atlanta, I can think of a handful of projects right off the top of my head. Well, I guess that will be following more for that. What else has been going on?
There's been some pretty big announcements. Speaking of delivering pollen straight to your system.
Good segue.
Yeah, Fetch Package is now gonna store your stuff.
Yeah,
they're gonna get it out of the floor of your closet and allow you to start to store your stuff. So, this is, I think, a pretty big announcement. Fetch announced a pretty big round. They raised a bunch of money, and now this announcement comes sort of on the heels of that.
Yeah, no, it's a great, it's a great amenity to, in many ways, like to partner with somebody because, a lot of these newer constructions, you look at some of the closet space, it's a lot of open plan living. There's not a ton of constructions, a lot of storage space. So to have like external storage space, to have a company that kind of helps you do that, that's huge.
Yeah. And this makes sense, speaking of seasonal allergies, this makes sense for anyone who still has their Christmas decorations up. They don't know where to put them, right? You're going to have to do that. So,
yeah. Well, I think if you still have your Christmas decorations up in almost April, you've got some issues.
Well, to be fair, I have known lots of people who like to keep their Christmas lights up year round.
Well, lights are different. Lights are different, right? You can keep some lights up, but if you have a tree, although I do know somebody that once changed out the ornaments seasonally, so it's like clovers, at St. Patrick's Day or Mardi Gras beads or for Lent or whatever. Yeah,
Interesting.
possible.
I
Yeah.
am glad that is not my neighbor.
Yes, me too. There's another big kind of new kind of development. I don't. We've talked about it a couple times in these recaps. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but Modern Living Solutions and Greystar had been partnering to do modular constructed projects, and they finished one of the first ones, the first one in Maryland. And I think the very final piece was 912. That's kind of that's kind of exciting. I don't know where in Maryland it is, but I think it's called.
Oh, it's small enough. Just walk around. You'll find it.
No, it's 7 buildings. It's 7 different buildings with 300 plus units. And I'm trying to think of what it's called. Stoneleigh Properties Project. Anyway, it's very interesting. You should check it out if you're not following Modern Living Solutions. What else is going on?
Well, we do have the results of the Amenity Monster poll.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah. We might as well go ahead and
Let's show them.
let's go ahead and show you all here.
Ooh.
So the Amenity Monster went to all these locations and determined that the worst amenity that we should just get rid of is
Movie theaters.
movie theaters. So I know that some movie theaters still exist. You know, these have kind of been like flex spaces, I think, in some communities. You're more likely to find these, you know, probably in a Class B property, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, movie theaters, right? They kind of got killed by streaming, especially during COVID.
Yeah, I mean the goal, right, would be to bring some people together to host people, and now that doesn't really happen at all.
No, this is not. Yeah, you don't want to be hosting people together like that. At least, you know, movie theater. And besides, you know, just, you know, it's competing with existing movie theaters. I mean, it's kind of cool to get a group of people together to do, you know, a watch party of something. You know, I understand Super Bowl, you know, the Oscars, but, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, but a lot of those spaces, a lot of those things, like watching those kind of events, can happen in like a community room with the right type of media setup, right? That can be multi-purpose. A movie space is really just to watch. You know, it doesn't have a lot of other things. And to your point, like during COVID, when you have to hire Nicole Kidman to get people back to AMC, like, it's, you know, that's a struggling market anyway. So having that in your apartment community isn't necessarily not easy. Not easy.
I agree.
What about the conversation in that? Did you see a lot of different kinds of feedback? What people thought if they didn't choose a movie theater, why they thought something else wasn't as valuable? Or
let me bring it up here.
Sounds good.
Let's see what we had in the convo. I think. Oh man, I gotta find it. We have so many posts this week. Holy cannoli!
Busy.
It has been a busy week. I need to view it as a member. And the poll is closed now. So if you're watching this now, I'm so sorry.
Did folks vote for amenity or concierge services? Because I feel like
nobody voted for that yet.
Yeah, because I mean that kind of trends with the move to hospitality. So I feel like that's sort of the way of the future, whether it's a human concierge or some kind of virtual concierge. That's kind of, you know, a big piece of it.
Yeah, Corey Smith, who was on our show a couple weeks ago, wanted to say business centers, but, you know, he kind of researched it and realized that, you know, it's kind of coming back, right? Like the whole co-working space is kind of nice where people can get out of their home office and actually go somewhere.
Right. That's a good point, right? And again, those business spaces are, again, the more, you know, the more recent builds are more flex, right? Where you have these little like booths or pods inside of like maybe a club center where you have people also get their coffee or do things. So it's not the traditional business center that we might be thinking of that has been in the space for a long time.
Exactly. 100%. Yep. And then Maury B says he thinks movie theaters as well, right? So like,
Yeah.
what are the odds? What are the odds everyone wants to watch the same thing in a confined room?
Right. Right.
That's not actually a movie theater. And I think movie theaters have gotten kind of smart here now. They have like smaller theaters, with less seating, but they raise the price, right? Like nice leather seats, recliners. Sometimes the nicer ones will even bring you food and drink. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other, not speaking of amenities, but just speaking of these kinds of conversations that we wanted to call out was Mike Davis kind of stirred the pot a little bit in a positive way. I want to emphasize that no one thinks he was criticizing anyone, but he just sort of said there's so much noise. There's polls and there's research and there's reports and there's podcasts and there's conferences and there's niche events and there's all these different things. He was sort of making the point of how do you approach, tapping into this? How do you utilize it? How do you let it not overwhelm you? How do you let it keep you focused on what your job is, whether it's to, close a deal or to, lease a unit or to manage a team? Like, how do you kind of take all this information in the industry, distill it? How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of two reasons why we pay attention to certain people or groups, right? For some of us, it makes us feel like we have community, and a community is a big deal, right? Multifamily. Having that family aspect is really important because it kind of allows you to whistle while you work. But then
Right.
there's the educational side. There's the upskilling, learning to get to the next level, right? Going from, a manager to director level, director to VP, getting up there. And that's also is required, I think, not just for continuing education credits for anyone who's along a path like that, but just for someone who's looking to deepen their, career path in multifamily, prop tech, real estate, whatever have you.
Yeah. No, it was a really great conversation. A lot of folks chimed in. It sort of made me think, sort of just this show's kind of origin and those recaps of just sort of, trying to organize, trying to distill information. How do you do it? I think there's not one right way, but I think, if we all try to connect dots on the subjects or the topics that matter to us, and then, share that information or highlight that information, that's kind of valuable. So good stuff.
Great point. Yeah. Great. Mike Davis, I still think there's room for more, still think there's room for more inside of multifamily and prop tech. I still think thought leadership and infotainment education, it should be constantly revolving, improving, getting better. I equate it to like an orchestra, where if nobody's playing together, then it does in fact sound like noise. But as we kind of learn and grow as an industry, it begins to sound like something beautiful. And if you want, you can hone in on, specific instruments, right? Just like certain people might be more attractive. If you're in maintenance, you're going to listen more to the maintenance folks, as an example there. So, it's really up to us to decide what the orchestra makeup is looks like. And I'd like to think that we're kind of like the greeters at the door.
Yeah, I think we hand out the programs.
Yeah, we hand out the programs.
No, I think that's good though. I think I like the orchestra metaphor because, going to the orchestra, going to a concert, you're going in with some kind of knowledge usually, right? You're going in with knowledge of what's being played. And I think that's a big piece of it as well. Some dogs barking in the background. But like what you bring to the conversation, what you bring to it is just as important as what's being said. So if you have your own POV, if you're listening to something, how you're communicating that, pretty big deal.
Agreed.
I like your hat.
Oh, well, thank you. I
Yeah.
work
I
out.
like
So
that one.
I like to work out so that I can eat donuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't compliment any of the other ones, but that one's pretty good.
Well, thank you. What do you mean you don't like my
No, that's a good one too. I've seen
pigs
you
that
wear that
fly
I've seen you wear that in person.
or my Roots? Roots is doing
That's a great
they do
company.
free
Uh,
rent for a year.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
My Land ID hat, so you can
Nice.
find out who the
I could
owner
still out
is.
hat you, see, because I still have other ones that I didn't throw on.
Oh, my
Uh,
friend, I have backup hats.
you do.
I have backup hats.
So why are we wearing so many hats?
Well, I mean, because we should. Why? Well, I
Yes,
mean, because a lot of people in our industry wear a lot of hats, don't
they
they?
do. I mean, uh, I would say that, a lot of folks wear a lot of hats. I would say property managers probably wear the most hats. And I would think they would agree too.
Yeah, I think anyone who ends up being anyone who has a position in our industry, and I'll die on this hill, or I'll fight for
Okay.
this hill. I won't die because I know I'll win. I think anyone who has to deal with residents, who also has to deal with like back end office stuff,
Mm-hmm.
is quite possibly one of the most hat wearing jobs because you really have to maintain the brand image for your organization. You have to keep that smile 24/7 with residents.
Yeah.
And you also have to do it with your own people on the back end, right? And it's tough. It can be taxing. So I think anyone who does ultimately have to wear many hats, whether you're someone who works near a brewery in Chattanooga,
Mm-hmm.
or you're a maintenance person, right? Wearing a lot of hats. Sometimes they end up wearing a lot of hats as well, right? You end
Yeah.
up bouncing from property to property. You end up surfacing issues, that you find, that may not be in your wheelhouse, right? But you still have to, make sure it's all communicated to the right person and team members.
Right. When you're on site, right, you end up stepping into roles that because people are living in those spaces. And so it's like you don't know what you don't know yet. And so you do have to step into being a general contractor. You have to end up with being a pseudo lawyer. You have to end up seeing an armchair, psychologist. You have to end up being a counselor. You have to end up becoming a salesperson, right? So I agree that if you're dealing with people in this industry, and if you're dealing with humans in general, a lot of times, a lot of roles require you to switch multiple hats depending on the needs of your residents or of your clients. It definitely happens. Not coincidentally, there's a reason we're talking about this today, is that it's actually Wear a Hat Day. I know you're shocked, right?
Big shocker. Big shocker.
But I did want to call out the why it started. Oh, you have a better hat for the end?
No, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna stick it to the. Yeah, I'll bring back the
Stick
Atlanta
to
hat.
see. I'm gonna stay international with France.
So cool.
So yeah, this was usually observed on March 26th, and it started as a way to raise awareness for brain tumor research, because it's actually, I don't know if you've known anybody. I actually, one of my college professors, mentors, they actually passed away from this. They have a brain tumor. So it's something that people know about. I don't know how it affects a lot of people, but wearing a hat was sort of a way to kind of raise awareness, because a lot of times cancer and some of these other diseases get a lot of awareness. So they were trying to get awareness around this cause. So we're popped up a link here, right?
Yeah, we got a link here for anyone who's interested in learning more. And yes, I had a friend of mine from college pass away during COVID, of a very fast moving brain tumor. And I think the worst part about it is I was unable to see him because he was in the hospital and I was not allowed in.
Yeah.
And that was very frustrating. So, I have lots of great memories with him.
Yeah.
But so we're happy to bring awareness to this, and couple it with wearing multiple hats to demonstrate the challenges inside a multifamily.
Yeah, it's true. I was spent a day yesterday with some property managers, and that's one of the first things they want to talk about is sort of the struggle of what they go, how they have to pivot all the time. And so, um, they do wear a lot of hats, and I think we recognize it. I think a lot of people recognize it, but maybe we don't say it enough. So it's good to say it.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
this has been episode 30.
Yeah,
of
31.
Multifamily.
We're actually going live on LinkedIn.
Yeah, this is true because I'm probably going to use
or not. I don't know.
Well,
all right.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Take care. Happy Friday.
I'm stopping it. We are stopped. Oh, imagine that issue.